We have to stand up and be counted about the issue of not only Holocaust denial, but Holocaust fatigue.
The memory of the dead will inspire the living, and that the suffering of the victims was not in silence, for in us, the victims have found their voice.
When I first heard about the Holocaust was when I was already in the train going to Auschwitz.
One of the 10,000 children rescued by means of the Kindertransport.
We cried ourselves into sleep.
And I'm trying to be the face of new movement to support change and really educate those who aren't educated on the Holocaust, because it is important to realize that we're all human and we should all love each other.
In these times when hate crimes are on the rise, anti-Semitic crimes in particular are on the rise, I think of a moment at Yad Vashem. It was just this one building. We were led inside, and there was only one item in it. A child's shoe with a spotlight from the ceiling right down to this little shoe. And it was so moving to think who that little person could have been. And you multiply that by the 6 million, who they would have been, who they would have become, who they would have then created, how the world would have been blessed with them. Child shoe. That's why this is important tonight.
Growing up, the Holocaust was the thing that impacted my family tremendously, but also we didn't talk about it. And the level of complexity around those memories is almost as significant as the memories themselves. And I now pass those memories on to my children because it is part of our story and hopefully our legacy to never have anything like that repeated again.
One of my kids to feel that I wanted them to understand it, to see what it was like. And so we ask these questions all the time, and we certainly asked them when we were at Auschwitz, because it's not Jewish history. You know, it's not European history, it's world history. Mm-hmm. And all of us have a part in that, and it's important that we all learn it.
Afterwards, I had this longing to see what it must have been like for survivors once they got out of there.
You know, during this time of being home, I've really been using it to, I think, my advantage. I've been studying the Torah a lot, and I've also been studying a lot of American history. And what I've learned is history repeats itself. And it's important to learn your history and to know it so that you don't make the same mistakes that your ancestors made. And I'm gonna say this, Jewish history and African American history, quite similar in a lot of ways.
Holocausts are not a thing of the past, unfortunately. They are happening right now and all around the world. Unfortunately, there are places around this world where people, families, communities are being diminished and destroyed because of their ethnicity, their religion, the color of their skin, something they believe. So, we cannot be silent because silence is complicit.
Tonight, Holocaust Museum LA presents the 2020 Livestream Special. With appearances by Jason Alexander, Ray Allen, Shannon Allen, Senator Ben Allen, Mayim Bialik, Jack Black, Billy Crystal, Ambassador Stuart E. Eizenstat, Beanie Feldstein, Lord Daniel Finkelstein, Morgan Freeman, Josh Gad, Gadot, Mayor Eric Garcetti, Mona Golabek, Tiffany Haddish, Michael Lawson, Richard Lewis, Tree of Life Synagogue's Rabbi Jeffrey Myers, Ben Platt, Anika Poitier, Sidney Poitier Heartsong, Lior Raz, Paul Shaffer, Marc Shaiman, Ben Stiller, Dr. Ruth Westheimer, and Henry Winkler. And now, please welcome your host for this evening, Melissa Rivers.
Thank you and good evening. This is going to be a special evening as I come to you tonight from Holocaust Museum LA. Over the next 45 minutes, we'll never forget as we are joined by survivors. We will stay vigilant by talking to national and global leaders, and we will remind ourselves to celebrate life by roping in more than a few of our famous friends. Now, besides the exhibits that showcase precious artifacts, film screening, book talks, and lectures, the museum provides free Holocaust education to students and visitors from across Los Angeles, the United States, and the world, fulfilling the mission of the museum founders to commemorate, educate, and inspire. So tonight, by clicking the donate button on this page, educational programs that value dialogue, learning, and reflection will allow the museum to continue to build a more respectful, dignified, and humane world. And well, we can only do that with your support. Well, and the lady to my left, Holocaust Museum LA CEO, Beth Keane. Hello, Beth. Take their mask off.
Oh, that's right.
Much better.
Thanks, Melissa. And good evening to all of you at home. This year, instead of you coming to us, we're very excited about coming to you. We're living in a different world, a new reality. And to build on that, we even have a new name, Holocaust Museum LA.
For those of you joining us for the first time, let's start from the beginning. In 1961, a group of survivors who were taking English as a second language met at Hollywood High School. They decided it was important for them to create a safe space where they could remember their loved ones who were lost in the Holocaust. They could honor the memory of their families, share their stories, and pool together their collections of photographs, documents, and artifacts they had brought from Europe. That is how the Free Museum got started. The founding survivors never wanted to turn anyone away from learning about this history. And 59 years later, we continue to honor their wishes by not charging admission. The museum owns one of the largest collections of Holocaust artifacts in the country. Today, Holocaust Museum LA is located in Pan Pacific Park, marked by the sounds and sights of laughter and sport, representing people from all different backgrounds. The museum has welcomed over 400,000 visitors and continues to grow each year because people are interested, people want to know, and people want to remember.
I was born in Lvov, Poland, and was there for the whole war during all the bad times. Afterwards, we found everyone else had been killed. Grandparents, my dad. Poland was a difficult place after the war. There was still a lot of anti-Semitism, and I was very depressed and quiet. So we went to Sweden to wait for the number to come to America. And my mother was very worried about me, so she asked somebody who spoke German, and the lady invited me over. She sat down at her piano and she started to play. And a great big change happened in me. I realized that there was more. It was beautiful. I was touched. I began going to school. I started to laugh. And I decided that I wanted to be an American girl.
Born in Lodz, Holland. I was 13 years old. The war broke out. The Germans come in, the first thing they did, burn the synagogue down. I was a witness. They got to my witness. I seen it, I still see it in my eyes. I came upstairs. So I said to Mommy, I'm going to escape. So my mother took me to the stairway. She said to me, go, God's help, God will help you. Went to a train, I went to a voucher Gadot. And after a while, I couldn't stay with my aunt, because other Jewish people moved into the place. I took a walk. Every day you walked the street, people were dying like of starvation and hunger. I don't remember what happened 2 weeks ago, but I remember what happened to me years ago.
I'm 97 years old. I'm a Holocaust survivor. Got on the train, and no, it wasn't a passenger train. It was a Gadot car train where it got 40, 50 people on boxcar. We arrived in Auschwitz. About 30–40% of people were dead on the train already. Whoever could walk, you walked out and were lined up in the rows of 5, and you met Dr. Joseph Mengele. and he picked me out to go to the left. He picked out old people, sick people, young people. My luck was, it was after midnight. Like the Mengele moved further down, I ran back to the other side. If it would have been daytime, I don't think I could have done it. We were already over 4 years in the camps. Until about April 28, 1945, we were going to Germany. We arrived in Dachau, and the next morning we went what they called a dead march. So after about 2 days, because the planes came over and bombing the cities, we knew the American troops were not far behind us. We were liberated. I had a father and mother, and I had 3 sisters and 2 brothers, and I'm the only survivor.
My mother and I finally got to come to America. I was 14 3/4, I like to say, when we passed the Statue of Liberty, and I spoke to the Statue of Liberty. I said to her, what will my life be like in this place? I learned how to be an American girl from movies. I learned about boys from the movies. You had to buy things wholesale. I learned everything. I went to school, I worked very hard, I did very well, and I wanted to become a school teacher because I had never been to elementary school, and by golly, I was going to be a teacher and get to an elementary school after all.
Came 1946, July, came to New York. I was 18, 19 years old. And after a while being there, they would send you to Pittsburgh, stay with another Jewish family. Good-hearted people. They knew my pain. How did I adjust myself? Good question, I don't know either. I still reminiscing where I come from, who I am, what they took it away from me.
I came to this country, I had to learn the language, and I was in business for 37 years on Melrose, selling military uniform. I was married, and matter of fact, today would have been my 63rd anniversary.
When the museum started, at first I thought, oh, who would want to know any of that? But the people were wonderful, the people who had created the museum, and they reminded me of my past. I wanted to know what had happened to all the Jews, and who am I, and how do I fit into it?
I've been talking here at this museum for many years now, because we have to tell the young people what happened, and that I'm a Holocaust survivor. There's a lot of kids I speak to, they never heard about the Holocaust. I tell them there's a lot of anti-Semites out there and Holocaust deniers. I tell them don't listen to them because the evidence is still in existence. You go to Dachau, Treblinka, Majdanek, Auschwitz, the ovens, everything is still in existence. You got thousands of people going there daily from all over the world.
I taught, I married, I had 3 wonderful boys. I became a therapist. I think I've done pretty well. I think I did what I felt that I needed to do.
I'm satisfied with my life. I have 2 kids, a boy and a girl. They all have 2 kids. I give them education and love. I accomplished what I want to accomplish to a certain degree. Always missing something. My family, my brothers, never replaced. Try to forget, but not forgive.
Well, my life today is very good. I have a Riva, And I have a daughter and a son and one grandson. And I spend a lot of time at this museum here, speaking. I'll tell the story as long as I can tell it. It's only up to the men upstairs.
Abraham Weiss was a prisoner in the Auschwitz concentration camp and miraculously avoided his own death 9 times. He lost his entire family because in someone else's opinion, they were the wrong race. Sounds familiar? Soon the storytellers who were there will all be gone. And that's why the Holocaust Museum LA is so important. Tonight, if you can, I'd like to ask you to click the donate button to make sure the stories continue to be told, like those of Avraham Weiss, my grandfather.
Their stories are, they are so unbelievably superhuman. And when I actually watched back my grandfather's Shoah Foundation video, it really floored me in a way that I found really difficult to recover from. When you're very young, it seems like such a crazy story that you want to hear because it almost seems so foreign to you that you can't interpret it and let it emotionally resonate. When you're a teenager, it becomes a warning and it becomes something that is uneasy to talk about with them because you're sort of dealing with things that seem so important in your teenage years, and then you realize none of that is important. A part of it and a part of the urgency is that we've been fortunate enough to not necessarily feel that creeping at our doorstep for so long.
68 local Holocaust survivors volunteer their time to speak to visitors and student groups. Believe it or not, this is the last generation of students who will have the opportunity to hear first-hand accounts from survivors. In 2019, the museum was able to provide free bus transportation for schools where field trips are cost prohibitive. The museum welcomed, ready for this, over 20,000 students, the majority from low-income communities. This year, due to COVID, the Los Angeles Unified School District, like many other school districts, will be 100% distance learning. This means we need to be able to bring the museum to the students. And because of the money raised from this event, we hope to be able to reach over 30,000 students and teach them not just about the Holocaust, but the dangers of hatred, bigotry, and anti-Semitism. You know, we hope that events like tonight make us reflect on atrocities, and it should, rightly so. But the Holocaust Museum LA teaches us something even greater. It teaches us about family, spirit, community, and inclusion. And anyone at any age can benefit from that, whether at home or out in the world.
I grew up in Manhattan. I grew up on the West Side, and around the dinner table, I heard stories. And one of the stories was that my parents were leaving Berlin. They had a 6-week visa to come to New York to work. My father asked his mother for jewelry, and he bought a box of chocolate, melted the chocolate down, and covered all of the pieces of jewelry in chocolate. Put it in the box, put the box under his arm. So that when the Nazis said, "Are you taking anything of value out of Germany?" he said, "No, check my bags, check us, nothing." He then got to New York City and he pawned the jewelry. Eventually started a lumber business and was able to buy the jewelry back. And I have the pocket watch from my great-grandfather that was smuggled out of Germany, encased in chocolate. Still works. Just an amazing thing to have, to pass down from generation to generation. Okay, so same apartment, Manhattan. On every windowsill was a spider plant. The legend was that the mother of these spider plants came out in a coffin at the feet of Tanta Anna Kalman. Now, I never really had real aunts and uncles because they were all taken. I never had grandparents because they were all taken to the camps. But we did have these plants. Now, when I came in 1973 to California and I auditioned, 2 weeks into my stay here, I auditioned for Happy Days. And when I got the part, when we were going to do the pilot, and then all of a sudden we were picked up, came out here to do the first season, lived in LA, and I brought with me a cutting from the windowsill of one of those spider plants, and this is the result. So it's been growing, and as you can see, it has all these babies, and then you plant these babies, and I did. So this plant, the mother of this plant came out of Germany in a coffin at the feet of Anna Kalman. And then I took babies and I put them in pots so that each of my children have a baby to plant in their garden to continue the tradition.
80 years ago, young children began arriving in Britain as refugees on the first of the Kindertransport, and some were frightened, some bewildered, some angry, some elated, most a mixture of all of these things, but all of them alive because of an act of will of the British people and Parliament.
Good evening from the United Kingdom. We always talk about the Holocaust, and we lightly say never again. But now never again is no longer a cliche. Never again is no longer an unctuous, empty statement. Never again is now an urgent statement of defiance. My grandfather established one of the largest libraries of information about Nazism in the world, so that the world might know the truth then. It wasn't some archive to him, it was a statement and a political tool. It was something he could point to and say, this is what's happening. He appreciated the eloquence of evidence. And that's why the LA Museum is so dear to me. The eloquence of evidence. So thank you. Thank you so much for your support and commitment. Thank you for standing up for something that has rarely mattered more. Thank you for taking that responsibility on yourself. And now, back in the United States, I'd like to introduce the author, concert pianist, amazing artiste, and friend to the museum, Mona Golabek.
I'm Mona Golabek. I think you know me as a pianist and an author. And I am so honored to be here tonight at this gala to pay tribute to my favorite museum in the world. It's my privilege to be participating in Holocaust education through the book that I wrote, The Children of Woolston Lane, and through the show. And when my family had to think about where did we want the artifacts of my precious grandparents, whom I never knew, and the artifacts of my mother and my father to reside, there really was no decision here. It was the museum. Every time I walk into the museum and I see young people looking at those artifacts, perhaps after having read the book or knowing about this story, I eavesdrop, and I'm so excited to know their excitement for seeing the actual images and the photographs and the artifacts. So join me tonight to support this great museum so that we can ensure their signature education mission will forever be in our community.
Every available unit in the city needs to get here now.
Multiple gunshots have been heard from the lobby.
We're under fire. We're under fire.
3 congregations celebrate their faith here. They were doing that this morning when this carnage unfolded.
Possibly as many as 20 to 30 shots is at the Tree of Life Synagogue.
His motivation, it was to kill Jews in their place of worship.
And in this Squirrel Hill neighborhood, a largely Jewish neighborhood, you can imagine they are devastated here tonight, and the entire city of Pittsburgh is in mourning.
we just want to know what you need. You know, if it's more money, let us know. If it's people outside your next service, you know, protecting you, let us know. We'll be there. If you need organizers on the ground, Engage will provide them. If you need anything at all, if you need food for the families, if you just need somebody to come to the grocery store because you don't feel safe in this city, we'll be there, and I'm sure everybody in the room would say the same thing. We're here for the community.
My name is Jeffrey Myers, and I'm the Rabbi of Tree of Life in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Many of you likely know my story, but just in case, here is the essence. On the Shabbat morning of October 27, 2018, a lone gunman entered the Tree of Life Synagogue, which housed the Tree of Life congregation, as well as two other congregations, New Light and Dor Haddish. By the time this assailant surrendered to police, 11 Jewish worshippers were dead, 2 were wounded, and 4 police officers injured. And I was there. I am a survivor. It became the single most severe attack on the Jewish community of the United States. I have walked through the valley of the shadow of death, and I have survived to walk out through the other side. During this journey, I have also witnessed great acts of love and compassion that remind me that there are far more good people on this planet than evil. Unfortunately, evil gets too much of the attention. But know that 21 months after the massacre that I survived, cards, letters, emails, and gifts continued to flow to the Tree of Life, expressing sadness, words of comfort, and words of hope. I, too, have hope, born out of this massacre. It's knowledge that humanity is capable of far more than we have shown. That takes faith. And I have faith that it's stronger than ever. That takes learning, incorporating the lessons of the past to craft a brighter future. That is why the Holocaust Museum's mission is more important than ever. And that is why I hope you will support the museum to educate, to motivate, and to change how people think, act, and love. Thank you. Shalom.
Good evening. I'm Michelle Gold, Board Chair of Holocaust Museum LA. This is a pivotal evening as we commemorate the museum's 10th anniversary since we opened our award-winning home in Pan Pacific Park, honoring our founding survivors' mission and vision to build a museum to provide free education and continue to teach our students, educators and communities the lessons of the Holocaust, to guard against racism and discrimination in all its forms, ensuring our future generations live in a world of dignity and humanity. Tonight, we honor and thank our survivors for their extraordinary courage, for speaking out and sharing their stories, and for being the voices for the millions who do not have a voice. And now we go to Washington, D.C., where it is my privilege to welcome the esteemed U.S. Ambassador, Stuart E. Eizenstat.
Good evening. I'm Stu Eizenstat. Social media has a very important role. It has become a platform for hate speech. On the positive side, we can use social media to advance Holocaust education and the lessons of intolerance and bigotry. The Holocaust Museum Los Angeles, I believe, is going to be at the cutting edge, the forefront of 21st century Holocaust education, not just looking back again, but learning the lessons of the Holocaust, when again violence against minorities for race, religion, ethnicity, disability, when intolerance, when hatred goes unchecked, using the most modern medium that we have available. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I am Michael Lawson. On behalf of the Los Angeles Urban League, it is my honor to be a part of the Building Bridges program, sponsored by the Los Angeles Museum of the Holocaust. This series of events represent a continuation of collaborative efforts that will break down unnecessary barriers that keep us from realizing our highest potential as a nation and as individuals. And now it is my honor to introduce Senator Allen.
Well, thank you so very much, Michael, and a very good evening to everyone. And thank you for your support for this wonderful museum. I'm proud to chair the California Legislative Jewish Caucus in our state capitol. Our caucus has long valued the Museum of the Holocaust for the role that it plays in contributing to a more humane society. Last year, we advocated for and helped to secure $6 million of state funds for the museum's expansion efforts. We did this because we know that the best way to fight against hatred and bigotry is through education. In the aftermath of the synagogue attacks in Pittsburgh and Poway, and less deadly but very troubling incidences of anti-Semitism and Nazism in California schools, it became increasingly important that the state support the museum's expansion efforts so that more students can benefit from the lessons of hope and empathy that emanate from the halls of the museum. All of the uncertainty and instability in the world underscores why this museum is so crucial. And now, please welcome a leader and friend to the museum and to the people of Los Angeles, my good friend, Mayor Eric Garcetti.
Thank you so much, Senator Allen, and good evening, everyone. I am so glad to be with you again tonight to honor Holocaust Museum LA and to recognize its extraordinary leadership in education, advocacy, and community. Since I first became involved with this museum more than a decade ago as City Council President, I've been inspired by its work and its mission to carry forward the lessons of the past and to make our city a more just and a more ethical, a more compassionate place. This is a time of darkness and uncertainty, a moment that demands moral clarity and deep empathy, to call out prejudice and racism, and a season in which the sacred mission of this museum has never been more important. So tonight, let us reaffirm our commitment to belonging and to respect in this time. Let us reject all forms of hate, scapegoating, and bigotry. And let us remember the words of the European Jews who, in their final moments on earth, in the cattle cars to the crematoria, sang the words of Maimonides, Ani ma'amin, I still believe. Even from these depths, we still must have hope, even in the darkness of a light and better world coming. Thank you for inspiring us to not only believe in that better world, but to build it together.
When you want a music guest, you want to make sure you have someone who has seen it all and done it all. Ladies and gentlemen, one of my favorite people, please welcome from New York, Paul Shaffer.
Well, thank you, Melissa. It's so great to see you again, if only virtually. But it's always great, and it is a particular honor for me to be here tonight. So here's a little song, and I hope you like it. Wake up, everybody, no more sleeping in bed, no more backward thinking, time for thinking ahead. The world has changed so very much from what it used to be. There is so much hatred, war and poverty. Wake up all the teachers, time to teach what you have to say. They're the ones who's coming up. The world is in their hands. When you teach the children, teach them the very best you can. World won't get much better if we just let it be. No, 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 no. World won't get much better. Gotta change it, girl. Just you and me. So donate and enjoy, and now back to the West Coast.
Hate crimes are on the rise, targeting Muslim Americans, Jewish people, African Americans, and the LGBTQ communities. The Anti-Defamation League reported that an average of 6 anti-Semitic incidents occurred every day last year in the U.S. And right here in Los Angeles, hate crimes are the highest they've been in over a decade. But on a strong note, over the past year, 3,400 people have participated in the museum's free public events. So pay us a visit. You'll walk away better, stronger, kinder. Maybe you'll be inspired, but you will definitely be inspired to celebrate life after hitting the gift shop. Right, Marc?
Yes, Melissa, yes. Personally, I celebrate life by listening to my old Joan Rivers records. You married? Joan Rivers perfectly represented the part of being Jewish I most love, the ability to laugh in the face of misery, to laugh at ourselves. Co-writing the song I Know Where I've Been for our musical Hairspray came naturally to me and my co-lyricist Scott Whitman. The song is written for characters describing the civil rights battles of the 1960s, but I'm very proud that our lyrics have also been used at many gay pride events and that they also apply to the centuries-old fight against anti-Semitism. Now, my singing voice has often been described as a Jewish cry for help. But they asked me to sing this song, so I'm just going to do a little bit of it for your own sake. Here we go. I'll just take it from the bridge. There's a road we've been traveling, lost so many on the way, but the riches will be plenty, worth the price we had to pay. There's a dream in the future, there's a struggle we have yet to win, and there's pride in my heart, 'cause I know where I'm going, yes I do, and I know where I've been, where I've been. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce a man so talented he was able to play Jesus Christ himself in my online opus, Prop 8 the Musical. I happily hand things over now to the one, the only, Jack Black!
Marc Shaiman! Are you kidding me? You are one talented mofo. Thank you for throwing to me, Jack Black, here if you need me. You take the laughs where you can get them. You gather as a family, and you remember what's important. And speaking of remembering, I find it hard to remember anything these days. That's why my new policy is when I think of something that I need to do it right now, before I forget. Or put it in the Google Calendar right now. And then I just have to remember to check my Google. What if I forget to check my Google? Anyways, love you all. Yo, Haddish, Tiffany Haddish!
Hey, Jack Black. You know, when I celebrate with my friends, I usually do this. But when I celebrate by myself, I do this. Melissa, now you know I'm a new Jew, and I should be hosting this thing. I've done so many bar and bar mitzvahs. I'm good at hosting. I could really light this up.
How about we co-host the show, and I'm still gonna let you just flat out host the party.
Touche. Okay.
Hey, you two. How about room for one more?
Oh my God.
And hello to all you people at home. I've seen intolerance and injustice up close and from afar. And that's why I wanted to take this time to support giving to the Holocaust Museum, LA. It really does make change in the world. And in keeping with the spirit of celebrate your life, some people like to do it with a party or with a drink. Well, things being as they are, I'll settle for a Tito's on the rocks. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Richard Lewis, a proud Jewish comedian, and I'm asking you please to support the Museum of the Holocaust and their new expansion virtually to educate people on the rise of anti-Semitism in this country. Please help them. God bless.
Thank you, Richard. That was uplifting. Jason, what do you think after a career of angst that Richard maybe has mellowed? But I think his secret is safe with us, right?
And everybody watching. So, how do I celebrate life? Well, when I was a kid, it used to be going right to the bad food. Bad pastries, like the Hostess Pastry Company, I was their poster child. You give me a Twinkie, a Yodel, a Ring Ding, a Ho-Ho, any two-syllable quasi-food product in a cake form, I was your guy. I celebrated right to the point of obesity. It was fantastic. Nowadays, I celebrate by gathering my family and my friends as close to me as I can and cherishing every minute I have in their company. And if I get to celebrate with this next fellow, I will be very, very happy. I will celebrate with him, I will sing with him, I will act with him, I will work with him whenever I possibly can. I've known him since he was this big, and now he's this big, much bigger than me, and a very big star. How you doing, Ben?
Thank you so much, Jason. Hello, everyone. I'm so honored to be here as part of this event. Well, sort of here. I remember my visit to the Holocaust Museum in LA in 7th grade and how visceral and important that experience was for me that I'll never forget. You know, just like the message says, I think it's also very important to celebrate life. And, you know, I try to do that in any possible way I can, both as a Jew and just as a guy. I think for me, celebrating life is about, you know, holidays with my family and Hanukkah and Rosh Hashanah and Seder and playing all the different animals in Chad Gadya and, you know, that's my favorite memories of celebration. Or my bar mitzvah, of course, which was musical theater themed, and I wore a cream suit with a purple tie. That was just divine. But anyways, I digress. Thank you so much for having me, and I hope that I can continue to be a voice of positivity in terms of Jewish representation, and I hope that we can all remain very vigilant and never forget where we've been so that we never have to go there again. And just keep a watchful eye because things can get a little bit scary, particularly here in America. That's all I've got. So I'll throw it back to our host, Melissa.
Their father is a Hollywood icon, and now they have made their mark in the world. Can I hear from the sisters Poitier?
I'm Anika Poitier.
And I'm Sydney Poitier Heartsong. And our mother is white and of Jewish heritage, and our father is Bahamian and was raised Catholic.
So we grew up in a very diverse household.
Yes. How would you say we mostly celebrated in our household growing up?
I remember a lot of food, a lot of dancing, singing, just big family dinners.
Yeah, lots of big family dinners.
Yeah.
Lots of celebrating of all holidays. Any occasion, really, we would celebrate.
Even no occasion, we would be.
But mostly centered around food and family and connection and
And I think the best part of celebrating was that everyone was included. It was not just us. It was like friends and family extended family. And it was just a very inclusive feeling.
Exactly. And always anybody who didn't have anywhere to go for that particular, if it was Thanksgiving and there were people who didn't have families to go home to or were stuck here or whatever, everybody was welcome, and we would have a lot of extra people at our home. And we had a very inclusive, welcoming, celebratory home, I would say.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I could use a little Beanie Feldstein.
Thank you so much, ladies. I love your sisterhood. So whenever something really amazing happens in my life where I want to celebrate or I want to just take a moment, I listen to Barbra Streisand sing Don't Rain on My Parade, because there is nothing more grounding or triumphant or mesmerizing. So that's what I do.
Okay, we've heard from the artists, but where are the jocks?
Hey, I'm more than just a jock.
I know. You are. You're more than a jock. You're more than an athlete. But we're going to represent for the athletes anyway. So how do we celebrate as a family?
Oh man, so many ways. We have a lot of kids, so we stay very busy, and there's a lot of noise in our house, but we definitely do a lot of celebrating.
We do. Music, movies, dance parties, karaoke, all of it. We love to celebrate life. Do we know anybody in Israel that we can ask about what it's like to celebrate in Israel? What it's like to party in Israel? What that feels like?
One of my favorite Netflix shows, Lior, my guy.
Thanks, Ray. So how do I celebrate? I celebrate with my family, with my good friends. If I celebrate it with a good glass of wine. I love to go to the nature, to the beach, to the desert in Israel, to any other desert in the world. And this is how I celebrate. I hope you celebrate too.
Henry!
Yeah, Melissa, I am still here. So how do I like to celebrate? I love to celebrate around our dining room table, right inside with the entire family, standing on their chairs, yelling, screaming, throwing chocolate cake. It just is amazing. I thoroughly enjoy that. Now, my good friend Ben. Hi, Ben. It is all yours.
Hey, how you doing, Henry? Thank you so much. I love you, Henry Winkler. Henry Winkler is one of the nicest people on earth. And I have a little Henry Winkler story, actually. At the school I went to, there was a friend of mine who was Henry Winkler's niece, and she said that she could get me an autographed picture of the Fonz. So I said, oh, that would be great. And I got this picture sent to me, and it was the Fonz, and it said, hey, Ben, one man's ceiling is another man's floor, Henry the Fonz Winkler. And I held it and cherished it for years and years. Then I lost it. But I found it again. I don't have it here right now. However, I asked Henry Winkler, because I know him a little bit, especially over Twitter. I said, hey, I got this picture that you signed. Is it really your signature? Because, he was so famous and probably had so many requests. Anyway, Henry sends me back a note immediately saying it was not my signature. So, of course, I had to rethink the last 40 years of my life. But then he said, I'll send you a real one. And literally within 2 days, he sent me this. Can you see that? And it's an actual Fonz picture, and then with like a real Henry Winkler picture with his dogs. And this is my prized possession. So I am celebrating the love and generosity of heroes of ours that we get a chance to actually connect with and find out that they're even better in real life, people like Henry Winkler. And that's something to celebrate. And in life, for me, learning how to celebrate the moment and just being happy with what I've got and where I am has been something that I've kind of gotten better at, and I found a lot more joy and happiness in life, because as you get older, I think you realize how precious it is, and when we're young, we think it's going to go on forever, which we know it's not. So, not to get too down, but celebrate life, enjoy life, do dances, tell jokes, do whatever makes you happy, hang out with people who you love. And I'm grateful to be a part of this event. And also, I wanted to say that I get to introduce Melissa Rivers. And Melissa, your mom, Joan, and my folks were friends for a long time. And I want to send you a lot of love and say, I hope we can connect one of these days. And I'm going to hand it off to you.
Okay, you guys, we need to end the celebration with like a really big finish. So, from one host to another. Billy, you there?
Hi, Melissa. Great to see you. You're doing a fantastic job. You must have seen my master class in how to host a Zoom special from an empty museum. Yeah. How do I celebrate? In these times, I wake up every day, thank God, and when I wake up, I scream at the top of my lungs and I laugh and I giggle. I get on the phone, I call my kids, I call my grandkids, I tell them how much I love them, I hug and kiss my wife, and then I go right back to sleep. Hey Melissa, you're in a dark museum all alone. Did you sneak in? Did you buy a ticket? How'd you get there?
Well, as usual, I entered through the kitchen. No, actually, they closed while I was in the bathroom, and I've been here alone since late March.
Oh, okay. Well, if you gotta quarantine someplace, you know.
Love you, Billy.
Listen, take care of yourself, everybody, and support the museum.
You heard the icon. Please click that donate button, and thank you all so much for joining us. Good night.
Holocaust Museum, LA.
Holocaust Museum, LA.
Holocaust Museum, LA.
Holocaust Museum, LA.
Never forget.
Never forget.
Never forget.
Stay vigilant.
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 Celebrate life.
Celebrate.
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 Celebrate life.
Celebrate life.
Celebrate life.